Hi, my name is Stacy Briscoe. I am a level 3 WSET instructor for the Napa Valley Wine Academy. And today we are going to talk to a few successful level 3 students. So students that have gone through both the course, either online or in person, and have successfully taken the exam, and to talk about both their experience, a few tips and tricks that they discovered along the way, and their personal success stories. So thank you so much, guys, for joining us today. Appreciate your time. I guess the first thing I want to do is why don't we just go around the virtual room here and, just say who you are, where you're from, and what you do. If you're in the industry, what you do for the industry. If you're not in the industry, that's okay too. Just a little bit about yourself, and while you're at it, just your, I guess, motivation for jumping into the advanced certification program through the WSET. And I will start with Eric because he's right there next to me on my screen. So let's start
Right.
with Eric. Right. Hello, good morning.
All right. Good morning. My name is Eric Wright. I am currently the assistant winemaker for Aperture Cellars. Aperture Cellars is a kind of a medium-sized winery in Healdsburg, Sonoma. We do focus on kind of the higher-end Cabernet Sauvignons from Alexander Valley. We do produce some Sauv Blanc with some Semillon, so kind of a Bordeaux-esque style in Sonoma. A lot of our grapes are from the Alexander Valley. As the assistant winemaker, I oversee all aspects of production from grape to bottle. I also, run day-to-day activities. I have a, team of cellar workers that work with me, and we do topping. We maintain élevage during harvest, and during harvest time, of course, we're working every day, getting, we do about 500 tons of grapes a day. And we are responsible for, I'm responsible for maintaining the quality standards of about 300 different lots of wine. It's a lot of wine that we make. And at the very end, we do about 30 SKUs of wine. And I've been here for about almost 4 years now. And then before that, I was at Heights Cellars in Napa, working as a cellar tech. And then before that, I had the opportunity to travel to the bottom hemisphere, work in New Zealand. I've had a stint in Margaret River, Australia, as well as I've done a couple harvests in Oregon as well. So next year, I'm coming up on my 10-year anniversary in the wine industry. So I'm very, very excited about that. But, with all of that experience, I only started to wonder about the WSET 3 like just last year. And basically what was going on was I kind of, during a lot of tasting at work, I kind of hit a hole in the wall, and I kind of hit a wall, and I was like, I just don't know enough about the world of wine. I know a lot about my day-to-day Alexander Valley cabs and day-to-day Sonoma Pinots and Sonoma Chardonnays, and it's really easy when you're working in the industry to be just focused on that and not really understand about what's going on in a global sense of wine. And so, my friend, I had a good friend that did the WSET 3, and we were in a tasting group together. And all of a sudden, this friend had a much more advanced perspective of wine. I'm like, what happened? Like, what changed with you? And she was like, oh, I took the WSET 3. I'm like, I have to look into that. So, I immediately gave the WSET 3 a chance, and I walked in thinking it was going to be a walk in the park, but absolutely not. I ended up studying and tasting a lot of wines from the world, and it really allowed the experience as a whole really opened up a whole new world of wine that I didn't realize. While studying the WSET 3, I was able to taste wines from Alsace. I taste wines from Valpolicella. I taste wines from South Africa. These are wines that you really don't get to experience unless you taste, so it opened up a whole new perspective of wine and appreciation that I thought I'd never have. And that is, kind of where I went. And the WSET also, every day at work, I'm responsible to taste through a lot of different lots and, write down tasting notes and making sure that, the wines are up to standard. And, before the WSET 3, I was using loose vocabulary and tasting vocabulary. It wasn't sharp, but I didn't realize that the WSET 3 really allows you to learn what you're tasting and kind of learn the proper lexicon behind all the different words. And I really think it's important. It's important to be able to articulate what you taste and articulate why you're tasting and how the different terroirs around what the wine you make, how that affects what you taste. And so, not just the theory side, but also the tasting side is the tasting portion I was able to learn and understand with the WSET 3.
Awesome. Yeah, I definitely want to circle back with you a little bit more about, as an industry professional, how it kind of maybe helped your career a little bit. But
Mm-hmm.
let's go on to Sumi, because Sumi, you were actually a student of mine not too long ago, and I know you are kind of in the opposite boat. You're just an enthusiast. So let's hear a little bit about you, where you're from, and your motivation for taking the three.
Sure. Thanks. As Stacy said, I was her online WSET 3 student last year, and I am an enthusiast. I'm a hobbyist. I am a recently retired professor from New York University, but this is how it started. So after COVID, my husband and I did a revenge travel to Piedmont, Italy, and we thought we had signed up for a food tour, but it turned out to be like a food and wine tour. And we had a wine professional, French and Italy wine specialist traveling with us for the whole week, and took us to at least one, if not two, producers each day, and just kind of seeing how wine is made, how people think about and talk about and taste wine. The whole new world was kind of open up to me, and I just didn't know it up until then that, like, oh, like knowing more about the wine, how it's made, where it comes from, what the vineyard looks like. I mean, that all makes wine just even more enjoyable. So that's how I got into it. And in New York City, I have a good friend who has been kind of at this for a couple of years before me. And so I know even during COVID, she was talking about, like, oh, I'm studying for this test, and it's a closed book, handwritten test. And we're like, what? But so I asked her, after I came back from Italy, how she got into it and different kinds of qualifications and different courses she did. So I started at level 2. I took like a 1 week in-person course in New York, and I managed to pass, but I was like underprepared for just how much information is needed to um, do well in these tests. And so when I considered level 3, I kind of knew that I needed like much more kind of plans for how to go about studying for the test. And so, but yeah, that's basically how I got into it.
Awesome. And next we have Serena, who is not just a student at the Napa Valley Wine Academy. She actually works for us too. So let's hear a little bit about you, Serena. What's your story?
Hi, so my name is Serena. I'm the marketing at Napa Valley Wine Academy. And well, the reason I took it is I'm surrounded by amazing instructors and students. And as a marketing person in wine world, it's always nice to learn a little bit more about wine. I mean, unlike every assistant winemaker, I think marketing role is it can be in any industry, but I like the wine industry, and then it's definitely helpful for me to take WSET wine level 2 and 3 because I understand like what the student like and what the instructor are looking for. It has been a journey. I took level 2 and I was underprepared, but I still passed. I was like, okay, level 3 is going to be like that. It's not. So yeah, I spent around 9 months because I received the book. It was like 3 times thicker than level 2, and with the tasting exam, so it's definitely need much more time than level 2 for student to prepare. But well, I have a full-time job, and then I also want to enjoy my life during the weekend, so that's why I signed up for the course. Like I took an in-person course, so I signed up 9 months before my course actually started, and then took my time, but really study of the material. And I would say it's a great journey. I thought that was basically for work, but in the end, I actually like wine and traveling. So after level 3, I actually enjoy wine tasting now even more than before, and I enjoy traveling through wine because it is great. So yeah, that's just my background as a marketing person in a wine world taking level 3.
Okay, I really love that we have a wine industry professional. We've got a wine enthusiast slash hobbyist, and then we have someone who basically discovered wine through education. So it just kind of goes to show you that the WSET is for anyone at any level with any kind of um, expertise or lack thereof, right? It's all about, are you actually interested? Are you wanting to engage in the material? Um, the other thing that I want to chat about, because I know if folks are listening and they're interested in the level 3, we've got two different kind of backgrounds going on here. Two people that have took the level 2 first, and then we have Eric, who it sounds like you just jumped straight into level 3. So I want to ask, maybe start with Sumi. How did you feel that having the level 2 maybe helped you a little bit jumping into the level 3? And then can you talk also a little bit about, you said, oh, it's different in terms of preparation. Can you just talk a little bit about that experience 2 and 3?
Sure. So, I went into level three, kind of admittedly underprepared, and I just came in like totally new. So I think I would have had a really, I would have really struggled in level three had I not had like some basic, knowledge base for level two. So, I think for somebody like me, or, somebody who's just kind of considering taking level three, as a hobbyist, I think it's really helpful to have that, level two as an undergirding
Mm-hmm.
scaffold for, building that knowledge base.
Mm-hmm. And what about you, Serena? You said you also started with level 2. Did you find that helpful?
Yes, absolutely. I agree with Sumi. So I think in level 2, you already learn how to taste wine. Although it's not your exam, but you kind of go through the wine tasting process. So at least you know certain words and lexicon that you should use for level 3. I think the biggest difference between level 2 and level 3 is actually for level 2, for the exam, you can memorize the answer. Like for example, in Burgundy, like the slope is south facing, then you check south facing because it's only multiple choice. But in level 3, you have to connect the dot because of the sure return answer. So, for example, the same example Burgundy, then you have to explain why it's on south facing slope because you want to maximize the sun exposure. So I think level 3, that's why level 3 takes time because you need to connect the factors all together instead of just memorize the answer. I would say it's the biggest difference. And level 2 definitely helps because I was used to the way that WSET teaching or like wanting you to answer certain answers. So I would recommend like starting level 2 if you are not sure like how much your wine knowledge is.
For sure. And that also mirrors my experience too. I started with level 2, and it wasn't because I was afraid I wouldn't understand the material. It was more because the WSET uses a very specific language, very specific terminology. And for me, anyways, having just understanding the way that they teach and talk, you know, in the textbooks, helps me motor along in my level 3. Now, Eric, you were different than all of us. You jumped straight into level 3. So how was that experience for you?
Definitely wanted a challenge and got rewarded with a challenge. I I went into level 3 thinking, I've been in the industry for a long time. I've worked multiple areas. I have experience with different terroirs and around the world, and I also have a UC Davis winemaking certificate. So I thought level 3 would be, a kind of a good stepping point for me, but um, clearly very challenging. Like what Serena said, like the level 3 is it's no longer, I feel like it's no longer like, what are you tasting? But it's more like, why are you tasting? Why is that in the glass that you have in front of you? It's the south facing slope. You have maximum sunlight, all of that you get to learn in level 3. And um, not a walk in the park for sure. I definitely had a lot of late night studying and, a lot of late nights reading the booklet. I drew out maps. I watched YouTube videos. There's a slew of helpful YouTube channels that focuses on the level 3 that I found myself engrossed in, and yeah, so that's kind of my outlook on level 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, out of curiosity, because I know Eric also took my 10-week online course. After the 10-week course ended, how much time did you give yourself to continue to study before you actually took the exam?
Oh, the 10-week course I feel like is a good like foundation, but it definitely wasn't enough. Like I found myself, not only studying, I like you said, I took the 10-week course with you, but I watched all of the PowerPoint presentations. I attended all the Zoom calls, and I also did I did the extra, and I got the little bottles of wines delivered,
Mm-hmm.
which I thought very very cool. Like you're not only are you you know it's easy to learn about Valpolicella and what a Passimento method means, but you really need to drink it to understand. And it's even more helpful to be drinking it in like a classroom setting at your own discretion at home, watching a recorded Zoom. So I definitely took advantage of that. Not only that, but I redrew all the maps in my notebook, trying to memorize, what the Mosel looks like in Germany, how the German wine regions, like why is Pinot Noir here and Riesling here. I'm a visual learner, and being able to draw that out really helped me succeed.
Mm-hmm.
And so, not just in the 10 week, I would say, I did the course that was assigned, I did the reading that was assigned, as well as watching the recorded lectures. But I had at least 1 to 2 hours, almost 3 hours every week to just study and prepare myself for the exam as well.
Mm-hmm. And so after the 10 weeks, how much, when did you take your exam? Was it like a month later, a couple of months later?
I did it exactly a month later,
Okay.
and I went in and yeah, took the exam. Had to wait
Mhm.
for about 8 weeks to know the result. So it was fingers crossed every day, but I was very happy with the result that I received.
Awesome. What about you, Sumi? Because I know, like I said, you were online as well. How much time did you give yourself post course to take the exam?
I think I gave myself about 3 months after
Months.
the course was over because I mean I think when I finished the online course I knew like where I was weak and what I hadn't what I needed to do, but also I just wanted to like really give myself like a concentrated time to
Mm-hmm.
study on a systematic basis. So and so I would say I probably spent like a couple hours every night for 3 months studying.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Yeah, that's another thing that I like to point out to students before they sign up for the online course is to know that those 10 weeks, like Eric said, really are a foundation. It's basically a first read through of the material, kind of figuring out what's important, but you really do need to give yourself an adequate amount of time to pinpoint, okay, this is what I need to know. These are my weak points. Let me practice these areas. I am like Serena, I took mine in person, and I think I did purchase my book maybe like, yeah, like you said, like 6 to 9 months before my in-person class, just because I knew I'd have to read the book, goodness gracious, probably like 5 times before I took the exam. So just to, like I said, to let people know that it's not just a read the book and I have it all memorized situation. It's a I really got to hone these test taking skills situation. And with that in mind, I know a lot of folks, whether they're coming straight into level 3 or they're going from 2 to 3, tend to worry a lot about the tasting part, which is fair because it's the first time, maybe for a lot of us, that we're being tested on what we're tasting. Um, but I know that for most of my students and myself, when I went through the level 3, what I found out was that the biggest hurdle is actually that short written answer section, utilizing the theory.
Right.
And Eric very wisely commented about how theory and tasting go hand in hand. So it's not that you need to study each one in isolation. But I'm curious, maybe I'll start with Serena this time, go the opposite way. What were some of your challenges in terms of theories, maybe some like surprises that you didn't know, and how did you overcome those challenges during your study time?
It's definitely the short return answer. I was worrying about the tasting before I signed up for that. But then I realized like at the level 3 level, you don't have to figure out the variety or region. You just have to write down your tasting note, and it's just much easier than I thought. And during the course, you will also have a lot of chance to practice with instructors. So by the end, the time you do your tasting exam, it's almost like muscle memory. You write down everything you learn, right? Short written
Mhm.
answers definitely surprisingly hard. Because for level 3, it's not only just short return answer questions, you then also have the multiple questions. So I think how to manage your time is very important. And I type a lot my work, and even when I was a student, everything I did was typing. I really write down anything. But for the short return answer for level 3, you do have to write down your answers. So I think practicing using pencil to write again, and it's definitely a thing that I practice during level 3. But like what I mentioned earlier, level 3 is that you have to know why, like what Eric mentioned. So I think practice the way that WSET wants you to answer is the key, right? You don't want to study books outside WSET textbook, but I did spend a lot of time just practice the way that WSET want me to answer, sometimes like why, instead of just memorizing the answer.
Mm-hmm. That's great. What about you, Sumi? What were some challenges that you had with the short written answer, and how did you overcome?
Yeah, so I think the challenge for me was that, because I haven't, worked in the wine industry, I haven't tasted a variety of wines other than, through the course, but I also haven't traveled to many vineyards. And so I felt like a lot of it was just sort of theoretical knowledge, and I needed to kind of expand my imagination of, like what's, kind of in the textbook, which is great information. That's all you need to know, but it's very dry. And so I think the challenge was for me to figure out like what are the supplemental materials that would kind of make the material come alive to help me kind of master the principles, and also to really like understand like the differences among different world wine regions. So I
Mhm.
found podcasts that talked about specific wine varieties or wine regions. I read books, travelogues and history of wine, things like that, just to kind of supplement and make it a little bit more interesting and fun rather than just really dry memorizing.
That's great. And that's one of the things that I always try to tell my students too, is to find ways to engage with the material. And while the WSCT level 3 exam, we stress this all the time, stick to the book. The book is the only textbook that you really need. I feel for you, Sumi, because, you don't, luckily for me, I live in wine country. I have some access to some visuals, but I don't travel as often as I'd like. So things like, yeah, what does the Mosel look like, or what does the South African region look like? I found myself using Google Earth to kind of zoom in and experience some of the terroir and things like that. So yeah, getting a little active and using maps and any other kind of visualizations are absolutely key to making those connections. What about you, Eric? Any interesting challenges that you came up across when you were studying, and how did you overcome those?
Well, going through the book, like as other people have said, like the book is really the only thing you need to learn. But the book is quite dense. Like you're going to be bouncing around. One moment you're in France, and in the next chapter you're in Italy, and like Italy has a whole different perspective of wine. You're now dealing with 1,000 plus varietals that they grow over there, rather than like the six red wines of Bordeaux. But and then the next, so it's just the book is quite short, but it is quite dense, and you really need to try to understand what the WSET is trying to approach at. Like for me, I kind of had a feeling that I knew it wasn't memorizing wasn't gonna, it's gonna be, it would take too long for me to memorize, but I broke things down and categorized things. I understood that, if for me it was like memorizing the map. The WSET 3 is focusing on terroir, and terroir is really dictates the terroir really dictates what's in your glass, and understanding that, and you draw your own map and you memorize. Okay, now you know that champagne is all the way up here. It's got to be cold. That's why they have Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. Okay, Burgundy's right there. It's still quite cold. They're in the, continental climate. So you memorize the different areas and you memorize the different slopes. And then now you're in Burgundy. Then, you're all the way down in Italy, and you draw Italy out and you're learning about the different areas. So, for me, really memorizing the maps and being able to draw it out, like, really helped me out. And I'm not kidding. I literally took a piece of paper and I could draw out all of Italy and like all the different wine regions. And that was what really helped me out, really trying to memorize how the terroir is affecting the place. And that really easily translated to the theory portion, because a lot of the questions, the theory, I remember the first one was, it was a whole section about Germany and the Mosel. And, in my head, I drew that out and I was able to kind of categorize my answers quite well, I felt like. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's perfect. There's a couple things you said there that I just want to reiterate for folks, and one of them is, again, kind of pressing that visualization, utilizing maps. I always joke, and I know Sumi and Eric were in my class, so they saw what my level 3 textbook looked like and how many times I scribbled actually inside the maps that are in the textbook, just because I always say I'm like Joey on Friends. I need to be inside the map in order to understand things. So using those maps. And I love how you said, on exam day, you were able to visualize that map, and you do get a piece of scratch paper on exam day. So you can write down notes, you can doodle, you can draw the map if that helps you on exam day. And as Serena pointed out too, a lot of it is muscle memory, whether it's vocabulary words, writing out those things, or just drawing those pictures, and really just being able to visualize that place in terms of your answers. So that's all really, really great advice. Serena, I do want to ask you, and we talked about this a little bit in our pre-call too, but you had also a bit of a language barrier that you came up against. Do you want to talk a little bit about how you were able to master that?
Yeah. So my first language is Chinese, as you can tell from my accent. So the English is kind of my second language, but then I decided to go start with this book, all in English in level 3. I won't really call it a language barrier, but it's just a certain like academic work that is in English that I have to remember how to spell it, because I was afraid it's going to be in my short written answer, right? But I do think like for us as like English as a second language, it's at a little bit challenge than like other American, but that's why I get myself a lot of time to prepare for it, in case I need to even Google like what is malolactic fermentation. So yeah, I think it's that, but I want to encourage people, even English is your second language, it really doesn't matter, because if you immerse yourself in that whole WSET environment, you actually speak WSET, no matter which one is your first language, right? So I was joking with my husband. I don't even know how to translate malolactic fermentation to Chinese, because I learned that in English. So again, my tips for it, just if you think your language is going to be a barrier, just give yourself more time, like much more time than other people need, right? Like you can decide your own exam dates. I think that's a beautiful part of WSET. Like no one's rushing you. So if you feel like you need a year, then you give yourself a year. And after so it's all about time. And once you're in that environment, I think you'll be okay. Like everyone will speak WSET, this language.
I love that. Everybody speaks WSET.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to also support other students out there who may feel that same struggle. In my online courses, I know that I have students who are not even in the U.S. They'll be based elsewhere. I had somebody that was based in India, somebody else that was based in the UK. So people actually do log in from all over the world with all different types of backgrounds and experiences, and just know that the academy, the instructors are all here to support you. And to Serena's point, I mean, even with the level 3 tasting, I'm pulling out the little card that everybody gets, and if you I always tell my students, I say, when you're doing your tasting exam, even when you're doing your theory short written answer, keep your little tasting notes here so you can refer to what the words that they want you to use are. And during your studies, whether you're doing it a month after your class or a year after your class, do everything open book, open note, open bottle until you have all of those things memorized. So we definitely, do support people that come from all different backgrounds in education. So thank you so much for chiming in on that, Serena. I really appreciate that. Um, so how about to finish? I want to hear like one or two things that have like good like piece of success. Like here's some good that came out of my level 3. I mean, obviously you passed the exam, so that's a good thing. But maybe something that you're using either in your professional life or your personal life, or maybe you just discovered a new wine that you like your new fave, whatever it is. I'll start with Sumi because I don't think I've started with you yet. Go for it.
Okay, sure. So, as a hobbyist, I have been, I mean, my husband jokes that the, main benefit is that we're just drinking better wine. So, but because I talked about this, studying for the exam so much to all my friends and people that I know, that now people kind of look to me for, wine, a certain level of wine expertise. And so I've been able to do, a couple of, wine tasting events that I auction off to raise funds for different organizations, and I really enjoy putting that together, and people seem to just kind of really have fun, and so that's been probably the kind of more tangible benefits of my wine studies, is that I'm able to kind of now like share it in a fun way with people
Yeah,
that I.
that's great. That's absolutely great. I love to hear it. All right, what about you, Eric?
How the WSET has affected me currently. Is that the question?
Yeah, like a
Oh,
positive. Like here's like a great
oh yeah,
besides
absolutely.
passing
So
exam.
it's affected me in my professional setting and also my my personal setting. In professional, I'm constantly drinking wine every day. Well, not drinking, I'm tasting. um, you know but tasting wines every day. We're tasting up to multiple lots, and a lot of the times we're tasting blind. And I'm also in a group of two other winemakers, and it's important to, when we're tasting wines, it's important to be kind of very neutral about the wines that you're tasting, especially when you're evaluating for quality. So being able to articulate the proper language, and use the lexicon that the WSET 3 really taught me has really improved. But also, when we're expressing like how it affects texturally, like the body, is it a medium plus or a medium minus, all these different mediums, or like acid, and alcohol. I think alcohol, it can't be a medium plus. I think it's just medium or high, if I'm correct, or one of those. But yeah, in a professional setting, it's allowed me to articulate what my thoughts, and say that, and it's helped me out. And then on the personal side, like wine tasting and drinking wine has gone so much more fun. Like I'm able to, I have a lot better time in the wine store now. I'm geeking out. I'm looking at the Alsace section. I'm looking at the Northern Italian section. Different areas that I learned about, and it's like, wow, like bring it home and try it, and like, oh yeah, this tastes like that because of what I learned, and this tastes like that because of what I learned. And it allows, the WSET 3 really allows you to grow as, if you take wine seriously, like it really allows you to grow as a person, and increases your perspective, the view you have as a wine as a global phenomenon. And it makes it fun. And it's you're no longer, before the WSET, I treated my job at work, I'm very blessed with the job I have, but sometimes it's, you're just only focused on Napa Cabs and Sonoma Pinots, and you tend to forget that there's a whole wide range of wine out there. And the WSET kind of ignited that, and that light once again for me.
Awesome. Yeah, I think they call that house palette, right? When
Yeah,
you're only
exactly.
two wines all the time, they call that house palette. All right, what about you, Serena? What's your happy outcome from taking level 3?
Yeah, I think wine tasting is definitely more fun. That I can talk to the winemaker about punch down, pump over, milwaukee fermentation. Like, oh, you know something. But what it really fun is actually during the wine journey, I realized there are also like spirit and beer WSET tasting. So then it's also pretty fun. Then I realized, so I think wine kind of opened my door to other alcohol. So now I'm like interested in spirit tasting, beer tasting, and then because it's all in the WSET system, so it's the same SAT process. So I actually just finished my WSET level 2 spirit, and it was just so much fun, like tasting spirit, kind of similar the way you tasting wine. So yeah, it definitely opened my door to all alcohol tasting.
Awesome. That's amazing. I love to end on these stories because I always try to start my classes, if you take classes with me, by reminding you that it's this is supposed to be fun. And I know it's really easy to get stressed out when you see, oh, my WSET2 book and then my WSET3 book, and you get a little scared, and then you hear about the short written answer questions, and then you hear about the taste testing and all these things. And it's really easy for us in this world to get stressed out about so many things. And I just feel like wine should not be one of them. Sure, we're going to study, and sure, we're going to take an exam, and sure, there's going to be challenges that we're going to have to overcome, but at the end of the day, we're studying wine. And who gets to do that? We get to do that, and that's amazing. So that's why I appreciate you guys sharing some good happy stories, overcoming challenges, and just putting into perspective, like I said, all the different backgrounds that you guys have. You come together, and now we all speak WSET, like Serena said. All right, so a question that we often get after these webinars is, are you going to tackle the WSET Level 4, otherwise known as the diploma, which I've gone through myself? So let's start with Serena. I haven't started with you in a while. Go for it.
Yeah. Um,
Yay.
I thought about that, but I don't think I will go for it. I'm just not ready for the time commitment yet. But
Mhm.
I do think there are other courses that fun to take. Like I just finished level 2 spirits, and I think I'm about to take level 1 beer. I just enjoy tasting part, so that's why I'm not going to diploma. But I'm sure if you love wine, there's a whole new world for you to explore. But I'm not there
Mhm.
yet.
That's okay. That's all right. You're discovering other things. You're still continuing your drinks education, so that's
Mhm.
that's amazing. What about you, Eric? Are you thinking diploma thoughts?
Well, one thing that the WSET 3 has really taught me was, the learning never stops. For someone that, before the WSET 3, I took the UC Davis online program, and I thought, oh, like I'm satisfied. But then the WSET 3 really opened up a whole new range of doors that I never thought existed. And, so I've had a lot of curiosities with WSET 4, and perhaps, now that harvest has ended. It was a busy harvest. It's hard for me to do many courses during the harvest season, but I've definitely looked into it, and my curiosity is ignited. So I may be looking into taking the WSET 4.
Awesome. What about you, Sumi? As a hobbyist, are you interested in diploma?
Yeah, I'm actually thinking about it. Clearly I don't need it for my career, but yeah, I think level three, having studied in past, level three has really, increased my appreciation for just, how much there is to the world of wine. And I know that if level two to level three was, a big step up, I know like level four is just like 100 times more commitment and knowledge base and all that. And so I'm just kind of thinking about like when would be a, right time for me to kind of start that process. I'm definitely interested.
Excellent. Yeah, just to kind of give a short, synopsis of what the diploma is for anybody that tunes in. Um, it is. I always say, if it's a leap from 2 to 3, it's a skydive when you take your diploma. But that being said, it is a larger time commitment. It is 5 separate exams, um, 3 of which include tasting sections. And then, of course, you end with your thesis paper, which requires a lot of, time and research, for those that, are interested in writing and researching things about wine. So it is one of those things where you have to decide. And when people ask me, as an advisor, as an instructor, should I take it? I never give them an answer, because it's ultimately up to you if you have the time and dedication to do it. And knowing that it's split up into 6 different units, sort of like Serena wisely said about 3, you can pace it out to what you can handle, but it's ultimately something that you really do need to decide on your own, and that's why I never force it on anybody. I won't even encourage it on anybody unless they really want it. That's something for everybody else to decide. So thank you for sharing that. And and thank you for sharing all of your experiences with level 3 and a little bit of 2 and a little bit of diploma. And I think we got some good stories and some good information here. And I know we'll probably have questions in our comments that our team are happy to answer. And all of the instructors, we've got our emails on the website. So if you have any questions for the instructors specifically, I'm Stacy Briscoe, but we've got a whole team of qualified instructors who are happy to help at the Academy. So please encourage everybody to reach out with questions. And again, thank you to the team who showed up today to share their story.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.